Hey there, welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question this week from Pip. Pip says, first, I just have to say the biggest thank you for all your online resources. I don't know what I'd do without you. That's awesome, Pip. I'm so glad that you're enjoying them. And there's a lot more coming, by the way. We're opening up a whole new library, including a ton of full digital courses and so much stuff. So I'll talk about that another time. But I'm glad that you appreciate what's there already. So Pip says, I had a really tough period 3 years ago where I was extremely poorly and eventually diagnosed with Crohn's disease. During this time, I was in a very bad place, which was when I stumbled across the three principles. After a lot of reading and some insights, I gradually started to see where my experience came from and I relaxed into life again. I had 3 years of feeling okay and seeing this understanding, but I've recently had a Crohn's flare up and my brain has thrown up a lot of old, negative, and unhelpful thought patterns from previously, such as you're never going to feel better, as it projects into every future circumstance, and then a huge spiral of three principle thinking and reading books, etc., trying to make myself feel better or see more clearly. Oh, and the odd, scary thought is thrown in there too for good measure. It's as if I can't see the woods for the trees again. And because I'd been able to see how this worked previously, my brain is also throwing in a lot of you should know better thoughts on top of everything else. Physically, I'm going through a very stressful time at the moment while trying to get this flare under control. I've lost a lot of weight and feel zapped of energy, but the stories my mind adds on top of that are making it worse. I'm in such a confused muddle in my mind, and I can't seem to see it for what it is. There's clearly a lot of resistance at the moment, but I just don't know how to stop. Any wisdom you can share would be incredibly grateful. So, Pip, I'm sorry for what you're going through. I'm so glad that you sent this question because I know that this is so common in so many different circumstances. The circumstances don't matter, but all the time, it's like we feel this bit of freedom. We feel relaxed, like we just feel like ourselves. And our mind jumps in, as you said, you see your brain doing this. Your brain jumps in and says, "Oh, you're feeling this way because you get the three principles, whatever that means. Or you're feeling this way because you know how life works. Or you're feeling this way and this is your new normal. You're going to always feel this way." Now, we aren't thinking that. Like you didn't think that up yourself, Pip, when your mind said it. You might not even have been aware that that thinking was happening. But on some level, that's kind of what happens is like we feel good and then our brain, because it's always doing this, jumps in and wants to interpret and explain and give a bunch of stories. And then the unfortunate part of that is that we feel kind of locked into those stories. We don't even recognize them as stories. They just look like the way it is. So, what inevitably happens is at some point we don't feel that wonderful. Now, I really want you to hear it when I say that's inevitable. Yes, you're having a recent flare up and there's all kinds of health and energy stuff happening and I get that. But your state of mind, your mood, your sense of relaxation, your sense of feeling like yourself, I mean, that's always moving. And while we have these insights and we see things and it's like the ground shifts up, you kind of have a different grounding, a different it can feel like you are just kind of coming from a different place in general. We still have fluctuations of energy on top of that. We still have moods and we still have so much stuff on top of that. All of that 100% normal and human, and flare up or not, it was always going to happen. Again, I just mean your mind was going to travel from where it was, and with it, you were going to feel different stuff, Pip. Like that was always going to be the case. But what you point to in your question is really where it's at. So, first, it says a lot how you ask this question and what you're pointing to because you know the answer. You know nothing is truly lost, nothing is truly at risk. And you say, I'm in a confused muddle and I can't seem to see it for what it is. I want you to keep this super incredibly simple. What it is exactly what you said here. Your brain scrambling to figure it out. Your mind pulling in stories and explanations and why is this happening and what it means that it's happening and what it means for your future and what it means about what you saw before. That's all that this is. That's all this can be, is a lot of story. I should know better. I want to try to get back to what I saw before. Even something like, well, let me just read a bunch of the books that I read 3 years ago that felt so good. Gosh, it makes so much sense in a way. Such a logic to that. And it's innocent enough, of course, to revisit things that were helpful. But you can also feel how our mind does that in such a graspy way. I'm not okay now, so I need to go back and shove in more information, and it's going to make me feel okay. And I just want you to remember where okay really is and where it really comes from. It's you. It hasn't gone anywhere. When you felt great 3 years ago, all that happened is a lot of that chatter just quieted down and you felt you. And now, when you feel less great, all that's happened is you're still there. Nothing has changed. You don't need to add a thing. Nothing at all needs to be added. There's just a lot of chatter over your okayness. So it all keeps pointing us back to like the less we do, the less we try to figure out, the less we try to make happen, the less we try to recreate 3 years ago. Oh my gosh, all those actions are so human, but they just tend to keep us caught up in them, which keeps us feeling further away from what's really true and who we really are. So I know it's so hard to hear sometimes, Pip, but it's almost too simple to hear at times. But you see it really clearly because you say it all over the place. These thoughts, you're never going to feel better again, and do this, and you should know better. I really, really just want you to see that as this. There is zero truth in that. They're not truthful statements, and we know that they're not truthful thoughts. We know because of how they feel. When they limit and they restrict and they feel tight, that those feelings are there to show us my mind is at work thinking stuff up, period. I'm believing it because that's what humans do sometimes. But the more you can see, oh, these feelings are showing me that I'm not seeing clearly right now. Let me just let that all relax. It, that's going to help so much to kind of help you in that right direction. These thoughts, when they come in, they're just your brain trying to make sense of things and trying to interpret everything. And they have a real logic to them. If they felt crazy when they came in, or there was no evidence for them, they'd just come and go. But that's not the case. They feel obvious. Like even when your mind is looking ahead, saying, "What if this never goes away?" Of course, we know that that has to be made up because it's talking about a future that doesn't exist. So we know that it has to be a bunch of speculation and imaginary thinking, but it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way for me either. Like when it's there, it feels like, of course, this is likely and it could happen. And it just feels so solid. But again, look to your feelings. When you feel tight and small and tiny and restricted, that's what's there to show you that that's exactly what your mind is doing. When we feel relaxed and open like you did 3 years ago when you came across all this, and life feels bigger and safer and we're zooming out more, that's showing you what your mind's doing. Your mind's relaxing and settling down, and then you're just feeling yourself. So there's no confused muddle here that you have to sift through or unravel at all, Pip. Just see that the confused muddle is nothing but your mind doing exactly what you're telling me it's doing, and that none of that has any value. It doesn't need to, no, I don't mean it has no value, but it's nothing you need to dive into and figure out. It's showing you what's going on by your feelings, and it'll also settle down. You don't need to solve for any of those pieces. What you're looking for is there already. It's never been anywhere else. From the moment you've been born to the moment you die, to long beyond that, I'm sure it's just you. It is that awareness that is who and what you really are. So there's nothing that needs to be added. There's just a little chaos and clutter in the way at times that can feel really real. And when we just get this little reminder sometimes that, oh, that's not real, I know what that is. Sometimes that's all we need, and it really helps a lot. So I hope it does for you, Pip. I hope your health improves, and And thank you so much for sending this question. I know it's going to help a lot of people. So thanks everyone for listening. I'll be back here next Monday. Actually, next Monday will be a rerun because I'll be traveling. But I'll be back the Monday after that. Send your questions to askamy at thelittleschoolofbigchange.com. And I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.